Hello Vikings fans, and welcome to This Week with Mika Robinson, head coach of Berry College Volleyball, and I'm your host, Raven Wilson. Last week we had some big wins against some pretty competitive teams, and this Friday we're going up against Hendrix, which should be a big match. Coach, please tell us about last week and what we can look forward to this week.
Sure. Well, obviously Mountain Day weekend, we had a tough weekend. We had great crowds here and great fan support, which was fantastic. But we had just come off a tough week where our senior All-American outside and one of our senior captains, Emily Stromberg, had kind of found out she wasn't definitely going to be playing that weekend and potentially for several weeks to come. And so we had started a new lineup when we faced Hendrix on Mountain Day. And we came up short. We played well overall in that match, but we lost a 4-set match to a very good Hendrix team. And but overall, I think we walked away from that match feeling pretty good about where we were with only a couple of days practice with that lineup. However, the very next day, we had Rhodes come in, and they're a very young, very athletic team. And it was one of those games where we really did have to show up and play well in order to beat them. It wasn't one that we could make a lot of errors and that kind of stuff and still pull out a victory. And unfortunately, we didn't. We let that match go to 5, and Rhodes took full advantage of that. And so it was a rough weekend. We lost. We dropped 2 in a row, which was something this team definitely was not accustomed to. And it was a little bit of a reality check, I think, for all of us of like, okay, where are we right now and what do we need to do to get better for the next week? And we also knew we had Oglethorpe coming up in just a couple of days on that Wednesday. And so we did a lot of evaluation of kind of where things were, what we needed to get better at, and so forth. And there really were 2 themes we kind of looked towards heading into practice on Tuesday when we addressed the team. And one of those was discipline. We felt like we're a team that prides ourselves in being disciplined. However, that weekend in particular, we felt like that had really kind of sunk to an all-time low for the season, and we just were not doing some of the things that we usually do in a disciplined manner. And so there were a lot of unforced errors and a lot of things that resulted from that lack of discipline. And so we came into practice Tuesday with the intent to get more discipline in the little things of the game, so that as those long rallies go and that type of thing, we're better able to still play the type of volleyball that we like to play. And then the other part was we have about half and half. We had 8 returners this year, and then we had 8 newcomers. And so we have a team where they've now played together for about a month and a half, and they actually have really great relationships and really great chemistry. However, it was kind of getting to that point in the season where people were maybe a little bit uncomfortable to step on toes when they needed to. They were a little bit uncomfortable holding people accountable in areas that they wanted to, and largely because they're just really nice girls. And so they would be a little bit worried about hurting each other's feelings or those kinds of things, and we felt like there were just some things that were probably going unsaid, and maybe some things that they needed to clear the air about a little bit, and to remember how their goals at the beginning of the season were really about investing in each other and investing in the team as a whole. And so they actually took it upon themselves to take some time that day on Tuesday to do a little bit of that, a little bit of clearing the air, and a little bit of really opening up to each other and being a little bit more vulnerable with each other in a good way. And so that they were prepared to come into the gym and just get better and to work really hard. And so I think that's what we did going into this past weekend. We worked really hard, and we focused on discipline. We focused on a lot of the really small details that we'd probably lost sight of over the last few weeks, and it paid pretty big dividends. Our lineup, I think people got a lot more comfortable in new roles, and this past Sunday against Center might have been the best volleyball we've played since early preseason, and so we all walked away feeling pretty good about where we are and where we're headed at this point.
And so Stromberg, I think y'all were feeling a little bit of her absence.
Oh, absolutely.
Last weekend. So how is she transitioning from being a player and being on the court to kind of being a team coach, a peer coach in that sense?
I think that's a great way of putting it, Raven. I think Emily, one of the things, we missed a lot about Emily not being on the floor. She was our leading point scorer. She also was one of our primary passers. So you're talking about a player that over the course of her career has carried a huge load for Berry Volleyball. But even more so than that, she also, I think all of us would consider her to be one of our stabilizers from a leadership perspective, and a lot of that just has to do with how Emily handles things. Emily is a very just calm and collected person, and if you know her off the court, that's just kind of who she is. And so one of the coolest things I think has been is to see how she's very intentionally transitioned from this role of carrying this huge load on the court to still leading. even on the sidelines, and she's over there kind of as an assistant coach, right now as she's recovering, but she still is so involved in the match, and she's giving people feedback, and she's talking to them the same way, and in some ways probably even more so than when she was on the court. And I can think of one instance we were down at Oglethorpe, and there was a timeout, and she grabbed a player, and she was just like, listen, like, you have to go after this ball, and you need to do this. And it's so things like that I think she's still able to contribute in really big ways for us, which is absolutely making a difference.
Some of your freshmen, though, are really kind of stepping up, and even the new transfer, Jessica Gum, she's been a very big part of the team now.
Absolutely.
Even though she's a transfer, she's a junior, she's an upperclassman, she can still kind of take control.
Yeah, Jessica's provided a great balance of some maturity, but still a little bit of a breath of fresh air as well, because she is new to the program, so there is still a little bit of that. But being a junior, and she's really a senior age-wise, but she redshirted at West Georgia because of an injury, and so she actually has 2 years of eligibility left. So she brings a lot of maturity and a lot of kind of perspective on the game from that experience, having played at another school prior, and so. Physically, she's doing amazing things. I mean, she's, consistently one of the top players in the conference for hitting percentage. She actually has been as high as #1 in the country in blocks percent for Division III, which is a pretty phenomenal thing for her to be doing that. But I think the best part is she's doing all that, but within our system and really meshing well with the team, and just, fully having a team first mentality. And so that's been really fun to see her be able to do that. As far as the freshmen, honestly, all of our freshmen have had opportunities to contribute over the course of the season, and so I think that's been really fun as well. And some of them have obviously had to carry a bigger load than others at different times, and particularly Michaela and Christina are consistently having to carry a pretty big load for the team. But I really couldn't be prouder of how they've stepped into those roles. And even some of the other freshmen who haven't gotten as much playing time, they have all come in at really critical times in different matches and made a big difference, which is really great to see out of your freshman class.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so can you tell me a little bit about what is coming up for the team? Coming up against Hendrix and Rhodes, Millsaps and Birmingham Southern.
Sure.
Birmingham Southern and Hendrix, 1 and 2 seed. How can we combat that, and what's going on with the team with those two teams?
Well, I think, we're talking about 2 very good teams, obviously. I mean, their records show that, and the wins they've had over the course of this season. They both are very well coached. They've got some great athletes, and they've accomplished a lot already this season. However, I think our team has a lot of confidence going into these next 2 weekends. I think they see how much we've improved over the course of the season. They also know that in both of those matches, if you take Hendrix and Birmingham Southern, for example, they know they left a lot on the table in those matches, and they know that they had opportunities to win those sets that maybe we didn't quite take advantage of, and I think they feel very prepared at this point to do that. Now, there's no question going on the road at Hendrix, that's tougher than having them here in the cage and where we're comfortable, but we also have played extremely well on the road this year. So, I think we're going into this weekend just ready to battle and ready to take it 1 point, 1 set at a time, and then going into Rhodes, we definitely feel like we want to go in and play well, and we want to challenge them on their home court, and in a way that we probably didn't challenge them to our best ability when they were here. And so we're looking forward to the next 2 weekends.
And you talked a little bit about how the team kind of had I'm going to call it a come to Jesus meeting of sorts. How the team all just kind of got together and after that Rhodes match and said we need to fix something in the team. So how can that, after especially the Rhodes match, how can the team turn that around for this next upcoming match against Rhodes? What in the previous matchup with them were they lacking that they can bring to the table now?
I think the biggest thing is open communication. I think that was where we struggled, is when things weren't going well. I think they felt a certain tension, they felt a certain pressure because they really weren't openly communicating with each other as well as they knew they could and they needed to. And I think that meeting that they had last week did a lot for that, in the sense that I think they're all more comfortable now speaking up in situations, and they're more comfortable both holding each other accountable as well as encouraging each other. And so I think it's going to make a big difference just in how we communicate on the court and the chemistry on the court. And it definitely showed up this past weekend in how we played.
So on Friday, the team travels to Arkansas to face Hendrix, who is undefeated in the conference and is #1. So when we played the Mountain Day weekend, we kept all the sets really close, within 3 points. But unfortunately, we lost 3-1. How will you use that game as a guideline play for Friday? I'm imagining it as the same way as Rhodes, but with Hendrix, it is a more high-level competition. What should we look for in the match as spectators, and who is going to be a dominant player specifically in that match?
Well, I think for both teams, us and Hendrix, we both rely on a number of players, so I don't think you'll see a dominant player really on either side. I think for either team to be successful, we will have to get really good performances out of multiple players. And so I think that's what you'll see in that match, is I think you'll see an offensive battle, quite honestly. I think, they have 3 hitters in particular that have the ability to really put balls away, and that we have to really focus on to defend. And, we have at least 3 hitters, if not more, that they really have to focus on. And so I think it definitely could be an offensive kind of slugfest, and I think you will see close sets again. And I think a lot of it will come down to which team serves and passes the best, because that will allow us the best opportunity to run our offense. And same for them.
And so the team, we know, has notebooks that they use after practice, and you ask them to reflect on their play and how their game's going, their personal skill level. Can you tell us a little bit about how that started and how that's been an effect on the team?
Sure. Well, this year our whole focus has been on the process, and so it's been focused on how do we get better from day to day to day, and how do we continue to improve. The other focus has been how do we become better mentally. And so one of the things we did this year was we brought in, as far as it's a team journal, but it's their individual journals, so they all have one, and we basically gave them composition notebooks and said, this is your volleyball journal. And so from day to day, some days we ask them to reflect on a certain question and kind of think about those things and kind of process. Other days it's just open-ended, and they process whatever things are going on with them. Or it may be things they want to carry over from the training that day to make sure they remember to do the next day.
And so I think it's been an opportunity for them to both retain things that they want to retain as they move forward, as well as kind of have a place to dump the things that aren't going to be beneficial to them the next day, or the frustrations and the things like that. It kind of gives them that safe outlet, that place that they can kind of put that all down on paper and then let it go and move on. And it's something nobody else reads their journals. It really is just their journey this season. And so we also think it'll be a great way for them to look back on the season, after the season's done, and kind of see that process and see where they started and see where we finish. And I think in the long term, especially for our younger players, there's no question in my mind it's going to make them better players for the future as well.
So with Hendrix Friday, this big match, what do you think will be in their notebooks coming up to Hendrix and after the game?
Great question. I think leading up to, I think our focus really is about discipline right now. So it really is about doing the little things well. We know we're going to get into long rallies. We know we could potentially get into really close sets. And so the point is how do we win those? And that comes down to being disciplined in the little things, so that in those long rallies, we're the one that makes the last great play. So I think there's going to be a lot of focus on what they can do to be more disciplined individually, as well as how they can contribute to that team chemistry and encouraging their teammates. And then afterwards, my hope is that it's a reflection on how well they carried out that assignment.
Fans, I think that's all the time we have. Thank you so much to Coach Mika Robinson for being here with us. And I'm your host, Raven Wilson. Please come out to the Millsaps game on October 24th at 2 o'clock. It should be a great match to watch. And thank you for watching.